Faith Goldy from The Rebel joins us on the program on Twitter at Faith Goldy. How are you, Faith?
Hi, Cam. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And we're just talking about the left just wishing death on Arizona Senator John McCain today. You were just in Arizona not long ago. I don't think you probably heard any of that from Arizonans, but you did get a chance to visit a gun store in Phoenix, right?
That's right. It's called Shooter's World. I was actually there for the full weekend to take a combat handgun course. Of course, those sorts of machines are restricted up here in Canada, and so I don't get to spend a lot of time behind a handgun. So I was very, very blessed. Lovely family, Randy and Diane McLean, Rebel fans that said, "Come on out here. We'd love to host you. Get you behind a Springfield XDM 9mm and get you as confident as possible." And that's what happened. I got to do some open carry. And I have to say that with respect to Arizona, it is a fantastic state. I think that the McLeans might have been up to trying to get me to move there, and they did a very convincing job with low income and property taxes and some of the most liberal small L gun laws in all of America. I have to say this Canadian was impressed and a little bit in love with the state now.
And listen, if you could deal with Arizona in July, then you don't have to worry about the weather, right?
Oh, honey, I just came back from Iraq. Please. Okay? It was breezy in Arizona.
We'll have to get into the meteorological conditions between Iraq and Arizona. I'd be very curious to find out the differences and the similarities there. But, as you say, and this is going to sound so weird to people who don't really know much about Canada's gun laws, but, I mean, you're shooting a 9mm handgun. And that's not a gun that you're allowed to own in your home in Canada, right? If you get permission to own a gun like that, you've got to keep it at your local gun club, from what I understand. Is that the Canadian law?
It's a little bit different than that, and it's so confusing that I do not blame you whatsoever to be like, are we coming or going? There are different classifications of firearms in this country, and all handguns are just by definition restricted, which means you need an additional gun license on top of a non-restricted license that you need for most rifles, most shotguns, which means with a restricted gun, you're automatically on a national gun registry. You absolutely must keep it under lock and storage, unloaded, trigger lock inside a safe. And then if you want to move it, you can only shoot it at a provincially approved gun club. So there's no firing it off, at backyard targets, let's say a farm with some nice berms built in. That's not going to happen anywhere in Canada. You have to bring it to provincially approved gun course. But before you can do that, Cam, you got to get an extra AOK certificate, mini license, if you will, an authorization to transport, as they're called here, in order to put it in your car and bring it to the gun shop. And you need another one to bring it back. So they don't make it very easy for us to spend some time and get comfortable behind our handguns. And if you want any of those licenses and you say that the reason why you want it is for self-defense, well, you're not going to get it.
Yeah, you're not going to get it. So you were there for the weekend. Do you feel more comfortable? Do you feel more confident now with a handgun, Faith?
Yes, I loved it. So I've spent a lot of time behind rifles. I've been very, very blessed, flown all over this country, trained with Rob Furlong, who held the world record for the longest sniper shot in Afghanistan. He was then beat by a Brit, and again now by a Canadian. Canadians are back on top. We make some really great long-distance shooters, and I felt really comfortable behind most calibers at long-distance shooting, but I have to say, getting behind a handgun, and any experienced shooter knows this, it's a totally different skill set. And so I was getting really apprehensive of okay, I feel so confident behind one set of guns, but I'm totally like a noob novice behind handguns. So by the end of just 2 days at Shooter's World, taking the combat handgun course, just their introductory, they have more graduated ones. Baby, I got the little timer clicking off behind me. I can make 2 rounds perfect, within the middle, center shot in less than a second. So I got to say, I'm feeling good. I can't wait to get back out at the range. And this time I'm getting the ATTs. I'm bringing the handguns with me, and I'm looking forward to it. And we're going to have some more videos coming out, too, of how well I did at therebel.me on our YouTube channel as well.
Oh, fantastic. All right, I want to check that out. But you mentioned as well, you were just over in Iraq, and you're working on a documentary. A little bit longer form video. What is this documentary all about, Faith?
Right, so we're going to be talking about and looking at the genocide of Christians that's occurring right now in the Middle East. It's an issue that I'm really passionate about, but regrettably an issue that most of the Western world knows nothing about, Christians unfortunately included. Of course, the Middle East was the birthplace of Christianity and where the apostles first went. At one point, you know, well over half, even 80% of its populace was Christian. Now the entire Middle East is less than 4% Christian, and of course some of the places worst hit are where the Islamic State Caliphate existed. It is now, thank God, to U.S. airstrikes, shrinking. And so what we did is we went to northern Iraqi Kurdistan and we went and looked at the IDP camps, these camps for international or internally displaced people. And they're IDPs and not refugees because, well, one look at Europe's boats packed with Muslim men of military age and you'll understand not a lot of Christians are on there. They've also not been prioritized whatsoever in any of our refugee systems. Well, your amazing President Donald J. Trump has called it a genocide. Well, the fact of the matter is 98% of the Syrian migrants brought in by the U.S. have been Sunni Muslim. Well, there is no genocide being waged against Muslims anywhere in the world, whereas, well, the Bible is illegal in several countries. And once you get to see some of the footage that we accrued while we were there, it'll become very clear that Islam and the Islamic State's holy war, which is what this mad march across the Middle East was, well, they targeted Christians first and the worst. And it's so shameful as a Christian that this is happening right under our nose and so little is being done. Don't get me wrong, there are some great NGOs that are doing important work on the ground, but for sure, a lot more could be done. And as a Canadian, it was really hard to be there, too, because, of course, our feminist Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, extracted our symbolic Air Force contribution to the joint airstrikes against the Islamic State. And so the few Christian towns that have been liberated, well, they say thanks so much to the U.S. and the coalition. And, of course, we're not part of that. So it was a really tough time being there. I toured cemeteries, Christian cemeteries that had been desecrated, Christian hospitals, emergency hospitals where 100% of the ICU beds were occupied by children. I talked to so many people that just feel completely forgotten by the Western world. And like, I got goosebumps right now just thinking about it. And so we're putting it together. It's going to be one heck of a documentary. And we're going to tell, you know, the Bible was the greatest story ever told. This is going to be the greatest story never told. And we hope to do justice and bring some justice to the lambs in this situation, because I fear that both Europe and the Western world, well, we've given a little too much credit, lenience, and attention to the wolves.
Well, Faith, listen, I appreciate you coming on the program, and I look forward to seeing that as well. Any idea when that might be out and ready to watch?
Oh, honey, if I tell you a due date, you might hold me to it. I'm hoping within the next 3 weeks we'll have a rough cut. We've got days, literal days worth of footage, so we're going through it all, getting it all translated properly, because, like I said, we want to do this story right.
I understand. All right. Well, listen, we look forward to that, and we will have you back when you're ready to talk about it more. Faith, as always, good to talk to you, and look forward to doing this again soon.
God bless you, Cam. Thank you so very much.
If you enjoyed this video, click like below and subscribe to our YouTube channel.